My mother possessed a fertile constitution that comes along once in 400 years. She sacrificed her own menstrual blood to bear a daughter, the only child for my father, who was destined to remain childless. Yet my father found my mother too rigid, preferring my aunt's more playful ways. By day, he would consort with my aunt in the temple, and he even allowed her son to ride roughshod over me. When mother went to confront him, he stripped her naked, pinned her down in the Buddha hall, and whipped her mercilessly. What a blissed womb! It's all a lie. Jiao Jiao is the one who can bear a son in a single try. You two, mother and daughter, aren't even worth a single toe of them. Fearing for my future, mother dared not argue back. She continued to swallow her pride and endure the humiliation, striving to bear a son for father. Ching ching. Don't be afraid. Once mother gives birth to a little brother, your father will change his mind. She defied heaven and risked her health to finally conceive a son for father, only to be killed along with the baby by a bowl of safflower tea from my aunt. My aunt gave her own son to father as the heir, allowing him to enjoy the wealth and prestige of the Marquis' estate. As for me, being a girl, I was despised by the entire family. In the end, my aunt gouged out my eyes and scalded me alive with hot soup. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day mother discovered father and my aunt's affair. Mother wiped away her tears, still intending to bear more children for father. I shuddered and quickly clung to my mother's leg. Mother, father doesn't like the children you bear at all. I think that uncle in the yellow robe needs you more than father does. Main text. There is only one person in the world who dares to wear yellow. That is the current emperor. Upon hearing this, my mother hurried to cover my mouth. Ching ching. You've gone mad. Children mustn't speak such nonsense. Since I married your father, I've vowed to remain faithful to him until death. Besides, your father was born with a weak young energy. He's unlikely to have children. Without me, the Marquis' lineage would die out. Your father, he just wants a son to inherit the Marquis' estate so badly. Once you have a little brother, life will be easier for us. Seeing my mother's devoted expression, I couldn't help but feel it was all for naught. In my past life, mother and father had once sworn undying love and were deeply devoted to one another. Father was born with a weak young energy. A master astrologer had predicted he was destined to have no sons. Mother, however, possessed a rare fertility that allowed her to bear a child for a man who could not have an heir. Later, she indeed gave birth to me, their daughter. After I was born, I was the apple of everyone's eye in the entire Marquis' mansion. Father would often carry me on his shoulders, holding mother's hand as we went out as a family. Even peddlers in the remotest corners knew that the Marquis of Waning in the capital cherished his wife and daughter above all else. He treated us as if we might melt if held too close or shatter if held too gently. With a wife and a daughter, he had everything he needed. That was until my aunt, who had married far away, was sent back home after being divorced and, carrying her young son, threw herself into a frozen lake to die. My mother, being kind-hearted, took them back to the Marquis' mansion to care for them. But who would have thought that my aunt would set her sights on father? She took advantage of mother's cold and flu, put on mother's clothes, and crawled under father's desk, where she fiddled with something. Father became as if bewitched, beginning to sleep in his study night after night. Even on my birthday and occasion he had always cherished father couldn't find the time to come home. My stepmother's son, Meng Xian, on the other hand, received all the fatherly love. Father would take him out to the countryside to ride horses and fish in the river. He'd even hoist him onto his shoulders and take him to the night market to pick the tallest lanterns. Meng Xian ran over to show off his rabbit lantern to me. Your mother isn't as capable as mine, and you're not as likable as I am because I'm a boy. Why don't you and your mother just die? I couldn't stand it, so I snatched his lantern and tore it to shreds, only to be punished by father and made to kneel in the ancestral hall, as the legitimate daughter of the Marquis' household. How can you be so vicious, and to slander Xianer with such lies? How did your mother raise you? Truly, When the head is crooked, the neck follows. Seeing me punished, mother wept with heartache. She, who was usually so gentle, actually stood her ground for once and banished my aunt and her son, Meng Xian, from the Marquis' estate. My sister has been divorced. She has no status or standing and is not fit to stay in the Marquis' estate for long. Qingqing is still a young lady of the household. Though Meng Xian is my cousin, he is still an outsider. His presence here may tarnish our reputation in the future. My aunt said nothing in front of my mother, but turned and knelt before father with Meng Xian. I beg the Marquis to have mercy on USA widow and her orphan child. My sister and the eldest young lady are trying to drive us to our deaths. That was the first time I'd ever seen father and mother argue. Father used to say that marrying mother was the greatest fortune of his life. But later, he said, "You're nothing but a venomous woman full of lies. Who'd stop at nothing to marry into the Marquis' household? How could I have been so blind to marry you in the first place? Jiao Jiao and her son are so pitiful. Has your conscience been devoured by a dog? All you do is sulk and get jealous. Why don't you try to come up with a way to bear a son? Or is it just as Jiao Jiao said that your fertile body was a lie all along?" Mother never spoke ill of father in front of me, but I saw her secretly wiping away tears alone by the window at night. Perhaps mother couldn't figure it out either. How could that young man who once loved her with all his heart have changed so completely? He no longer trusted her at all. Later, when the entire Marquis' household came to the temple to pray for blessings, I caught father and my stepmother in the act. I turned pale with shock and tried to scream, but Meng Xian pinned me down, covering my mouth so I couldn't move. "You little slut. Don't you dare scream. Don't even think about ruining their fun. The one your father truly loves is my mother. What does your mother amount to? Once my mother becomes the mistress of the Marquis' mansion, I'll marry you off to me as a concubine and make you act all high and mighty in front of me every single day." Seeing me being bullied, mother immediately dragged me to father to demand an explanation. But father turned the tables on her, stripped her naked, and humiliated and whipped her mercilessly. "If you dare to ruin Jiao Jiao's reputation, I'll say you're a loose, lowly woman who couldn't keep her hands to herself even in a temple, that you tried to seduce a monk and I caught you. Then we'll see whose face is more disgraced." Mother endured it, but she didn't do it for herself. She had always strictly observed propriety and devoted herself wholeheartedly to raising her daughters. She feared I might not be able to secure a good marriage in the future because of this. So she chose to swallow her pride and keep her grievances to herself. Yet she had worked so hard to bear children for father, only to end up with 3 lives, 1 adult and 2 children. Father has no heir, yet he refuses to treat my mother kindly. This proves the Marquis' household was destined to die out. Mother was blessed with fertility. Why shouldn't she bear children for someone else? Besides, I'm not speaking out of turn. Apart from father, the current emperor has no heir either. In my previous life, right up until my mother's death, the emperor in the palace had not a single son, not even a princess. They had to adopt the son of a collateral prince from the imperial clan to inherit the throne. Unfortunately, since the adopted prince was not of his own blood, once he gained power, he had no intention of remaining subservient. In the year I died, the emperor fell gravely ill, and the crown prince took over the reins of government. Instead of seeking medical treatment for the emperor, the crown prince had him confined and referred to his own father as the emperor emeritus. Eventually, the emperor died of a broken heart. In this life, I intend to have mother bear the emperor a biological child. It is also a way to save both mother's and my own lives. Seeing that mother still refused to let go of her illusions, I didn't hold anything back and told her everything that had happened to me in my previous life. There was no need to exaggerate. What had happened to us was already horrifying enough. After hearing this, mother remained silent for a long time. Only her pale knuckles trembled slightly. With reddened eyes, she held me tightly in her arms, her voice filled with sorrow. "Qingqing, it's all my fault. I was too weak to protect you. Through both past and present lives, I have never blamed Mother. She has been kind-hearted since childhood. She couldn't even bear to step on a passing insect. After marriage, her sole focus was on supporting her husband and raising her children. Treating all the maids and servants great and small with kindness. She simply could not have imagined that people could be so malicious. Mother trusted me, but she never thought she could have any connection to the current emperor. After all, the emperor resided far away in the palace. And we, his family, could only catch a distant glimpse of him during court banquets. Fortunately, I haven't been given a second chance at life. In my previous life, we went to the temple to pray for blessings, only to learn later that the emperor had also come there in disguise on the same day. The emperor had been drugged with a love potion and urgently needed a virtuous woman to counteract the poison. A rough-hewn village woman, gathering wild vegetables on the mountainside, was granted this opportunity. Although she didn't end up pregnant, the emperor, ever the man of honor, brought her into the palace as a concubine, and for a time, she was the talk of the land. My mother is kind-hearted, beautiful, and blessed with the ability to bear children. She is even more suited to enter the palace and make a name for herself. I pestered Mother to let us spend the night at the temple. Father was too busy comforting my frightened aunt to care whether we wanted to go home or not, while Mother was ensing herself in the meditation hall. I took the solid gold charm my father had once made for me and found that wild vegetable-picking peasant woman on the mountainside. Here. Take this. It's worth a fair sum of silver, enough to ensure you live out your days in comfort. The price is that you must leave the capital immediately, and I never want to see you again. The peasant woman, having little worldly wisdom, was overjoyed at the prospect of such good fortune and agreed without hesitation. That night, the emperor's poison took hold, and his trusted secret guards immediately began searching for a woman to counteract it. But for miles around, not only were there no women to be found, I had driven away every female animal as well. Just then, my mother stepped out to pour out the water after her ablutions, and her peerless beauty happened to catch the eye of one of the frantic guards. The guard knocked her unconscious on the spot and carried her to the emperor's chambers. What happened next? I could not bear to watch. By dawn, my mother finally ran out of the room, her clothes disheveled and her face streaked with tears. The emperor stood at the doorway, looking thoroughly satisfied, and ordered his men to find the woman at all costs. She intended to bring her back to the palace to make amends, fearing my mother might change her mind at the last moment because she still cared for my father, and worried that the emperor's men might mistake someone else and cause an unnecessary mix-up. I immediately stepped forward to reveal my identity. Uncle, are you looking for someone? The woman who just ran past looked like my mother. Wah, wah. My father has abandoned us. Mother is so heartbroken. She hasn't come home since last night. I'm so afraid she might do something reckless. Uncle, could you please try to talk some sense into Mother? The emperor's eyes suddenly lit up. My dear child, tell Uncle, which family are you from? My mother and I sat in the carriage prepared by the secret guards. Still somewhat shaken, I asked Mother why she hadn't simply stayed put and directly expressed her feelings to the emperor, offering to become his concubine. Instead, she avoided him and repeatedly drew a clear line between them. By then, Mother had already composed herself, regaining her usual dignified and refined demeanor, though a faint smile lingered at the corner of her lips. Ching-ching. You're still young. There are many things you don't understand. Things pursued too hastily are easily looked down upon. On the contrary, it is those that drive one to distraction that endure. Your father is the best example of that. I made so many mistakes in the past. It didn't matter that I suffered myself, but I caused my own flesh and blood to suffer. From now on, I will only focus on our future as mother and daughter. I will never repeat those mistakes. When we return this time, I will file for a divorce from your father. I was relieved that Mother had finally come to her senses. Compared to the Marquis' estate, the imperial family has the throne to inherit. That is where bloodline succession truly matters. The Marquis mansion is simply not worthy of my mother. But when we returned to the Marquis mansion, we discovered we couldn't even get through the main gate. Father stood at the entrance with my aunt and Meng Xian, his face full of contempt as he looked at my mother. Weren't you the one who was so stubborn, refusing to come back with us? Do you think this will make me worry about you? And make up for the mistakes you've made? Ha! Let me tell you, my lady, no way. If you and your daughter do not kneel before Jiao Jiao and her son today to admit your wrongdoing, don't even think about setting foot inside the Marquis mansion ever again. The commotion at the entrance immediately drew a crowd of onlookers. Seeing my father bar my mother and me from entering, many began to gossip. What has the Marquis' wife done this time? Look how furious the Marquis is. I hear the Marquis is terribly headstrong. She can't even tolerate her own younger sister. The Marquis is a noble and upright man. Of course he'd choose justice over family ties. If you ask me. A woman like that's just been spoiled rotten. She's so dramatic, a few good beatings would set her straight. These people were slandering my mother without knowing the facts. Yet my father showed no intention of explaining. I let out a cold laugh and began to shout loudly. It was my father who slept with my mother's half-sister. My dear aunt was staying at our house to seduce my father. And my father, blinded by that slut's charms, is trying to drive us, me mother and me, to our deaths. As soon as these words were spoken, many sensible people suddenly understood. So that's how it is. A woman who's been sent back home after a divorce with no status or standing dares to seduce her sister's husband. How utterly despicable. My aunt, who had been hiding in the corner watching the spectacle, instantly lost all color from her face. She cowered behind my father, her voice trembling as she looked on the verge of tears. Your Excellency. My father, who had been playing dead just moments ago, suddenly sprang to life. He strode down the steps, intending to slap me. You little beast. What nonsense are you spouting? His hand did not land on my face. Mother stepped in front of me and took the blow with both hands. Her expression was more serene than I had ever seen. Gu Yanji. Qingqing isn't lying. What right do you have to hit her? Since you and Shenmu Jiao dared to commit such a scandalous act, why are you afraid of people talking? Since your Marquis' household insists on bringing home every filthy, stinking thing, then my daughter and I simply won't set foot inside. Let's divorce. You despise Qingqing for being a girl, punishing her indiscriminately without distinguishing right from wrong. Qingqing belongs to me. From now on, my daughter and I will have absolutely no connection whatsoever with your waning Marquis' household. I don't know if it was just my eyes playing tricks on me, but after Mother uttered the words divorce, Father's eyes suddenly narrowed sharply. It was very much like that lantern festival years ago, when the crowds were so thick they scattered the three of us, and he was frantic with panic as he searched for us, but he quickly returned to his usual self. As if it had all been a figment of my imagination, Father's face was etched with contempt and sarcasm. Divorce. What a joke. You're just a woman cooped up in this mansion, with no skills to support yourself. All you know how to do is bear children for me in the back courtyard. If you're not under my care, how will you and Qingqing survive? Will she still be able to marry into a good family? There are limits to throwing a tantrum, with so many people watching. Aren't you ashamed of yourself? Enough. Whatever this is about, let's discuss it at home. But my usually gentle mother was resolute this time. How my daughter and I will survive in the future is none of the Marquis' concern. Remember the items on my dowry list, not a single one may be missing. With silver, how could we not survive? Rejected by Mother in public. Father's face alternated between pale and crimson. Finally, gritting his teeth, he muttered, Fine, fine, fine. Just don't say I didn't warn you. Mother had no regrets. After signing the divorce papers, she took me to stay at the most luxurious inn in the capital that very same day. The incident at the Marquis' mansion caused quite a stir. Everyone in the capital, from high-ranking officials to commoners, was discussing this sensational event. Naturally, the emperor in the palace had also heard what had happened. He sent the secret guards who had been at the temple that day to the inn, saying he wanted to bring us mother and daughter into the palace. But mother was hesitant at this point. Once you enter the palace gates, it's like entering a deep sea. Besides, she was a divorced woman. How could she possibly compete with the 3 palaces and 6 courts filled with 3,000 beauties? She feared that once she entered the palace, she would lose control of her own life and be unable to look after my future. Just as mother was wavering, father sent a messenger with a bright red invitation. The servants from the Marquis's mansion stammered as they delivered the message. They said that if the lady still refused to bring the eldest daughter home, the Marquis would marry Shinmujiao as his primary wife in 3 days' time. Mother's face turned pale. I quickly seized the opportunity to fan the flames. Father is actually going to take a new wife so soon, mother. You can't fall behind. Don't worry about your daughter. As long as you and the emperor get to eat the meat and leave me a sip of soup. It's still far better than dying a miserable death at the Marquis's mansion. Mother finally relented and agreed. We would enter the palace in 3 days. On the day of the ceremony, father sent a trusted servant to the inn, inviting us mother and me to attend the festivities. The Marquis said the new wife's entrance ceremony will be a notch above the old wife's in every way. The Marquis said the osmanthus trees that the old wife and the eldest young lady loved will all be cut down today and replaced with peach blossoms, which the new wife prefers. The Marquis also said that young Master Mengxian will be added to the family registry today. He is the new wife's son, and from now on, he will be the Marquis's son. I froze, a twinge of pain still stinging in my heart. Those osmanthus trees were planted by father and mother together the year I was born. Mother loved to rest beneath them. Every autumn, mother would make osmanthus cakes for me with her own hands. Father often joked that I was such a glutton, and that one day I'd have to take the osmanthus trees with me as part of my dowry when I married, and the family register. Simply because I am a girl. Father has been putting it off all these years and has never added my name. No matter how I proved I was just as capable as any boy, father never relented. He knew full well that this matter bothered me. Fortunately, mother had already boarded the palanquin ahead of me, so she wasn't affected by these troubles. I calmed my sorrow, shifted my thoughts, and smiled at the young servant. Please convey a message to your lord on my behalf. Sitting in the palanquin heading to the palace with mother, I saw father riding a majestic steed, leading the wedding procession as it passed right by us. Just as father's servant had described, the scene was filled with the sound of flutes and drums, the clanging of gongs and cymbals. Truly a lively spectacle. Passers-by on the street stopped to watch the Marquis of Waning's wedding to his new wife. What a grand spectacle. Men everywhere are the same. They only hear the bride's laughter, never the ex-wife's tears. Naturally, money follows love. I hear the Marquis of Waning is quite fond of this new wife, which is why he's making such a grand affair of it. And he's even taken a son in out of affection for her. My mother and I remained silent. We were carried through a side gate of the palace, finally cut off from all the commotion and transported to a whole new world. Gu Yanji stood outside the Marquis's mansion in a bright red wedding robe, constantly scanning the horizon, even though Shinmujiao had sent messengers to urge him several times. And the guests were growing impatient. Gu Yanji still refused to go inside for the wedding ceremony. Wait a little longer. It's not time yet. Spotting his servant rushing over, he hurriedly asked, "Did you deliver the message? Where are the mother and daughter? Why haven't they returned yet? Did I tell you to say everything word for word? You didn't leave anything out, did you?" The servant shook his head, then looked troubled. "Marquis, the eldest young lady also asked me to pass on a message to you. She said she won't be able to attend your wedding banquet today. The lady has already taken her to remarry." Gu Yanji's face went pale, and he staggered, nearly falling down the steps. It took him a long while to regain his composure. Remarry? How is that possible? Shinmujiao has never set foot outside the inner courtyard. Even if she wanted to find someone to marry, she wouldn't have had the chance. Do they really think they can stop me from marrying Jiao Jiao by spinning such a flimsy lie? What a joke. Give the order, the wedding ceremony is to begin immediately. If some people don't want to come, we won't wait for them. Though he spoke these words, the servants of the home mansion noticed something peculiar that day. The Marquis, who hadn't spent a night in the former wife's chambers for a long time, actually sat alone all night in the empty room on his own wedding night. My mother and I knew nothing of this. The emperor had arranged for us to stay in the warm and spacious Hefu Palace. My mother was granted the title of Yao Fei, which was higher than the title of village lady she held in her previous life, clearly showing that the emperor was very pleased with her. However, given our unique status, we kept mother's identity under wraps for the time being to avoid malicious speculation from the outside world. The public only knew that the emperor seemed to favor his newly acquired consort Yao greatly, sending all manner of fine gifts to Hefu Palace, though I was merely a little tag-along. The emperor never once treated me harshly. Being childless himself, he was exceptionally kind to children. Wooden rocking horses, rattle drums, kuju balls, short spears with red tassels. The emperor has gathered them all for me, every time he returns from court. Aside from spending time with my mother, he watches me play freely in the courtyard. From the look in his eyes, one can see how deeply he longs for a child, so much so that he extends his affection to others' children as well. In my previous life, when I accompanied my parents to banquets at the palace, the emperor would specifically order several separate tables set up for the children, so that the young lads and lasses from every family could eat, drink, and play to their heart's content. Every child would say, "That uncle in the yellow robes is such a kind man. Yet heaven has left such a good man without an heir. It's truly unjust." My gaze involuntarily fell upon my mother's belly. It has been 2 months since mother entered the palace, yet there seems to be no sign of life in her womb. When I asked her about it in secret, mother merely smiled without answering, telling me not to worry and that she had her own plans. But before I could figure out what those plans were, the emperor had already decided to adopt a male heir from the imperial clan as crown prince. Just as he did in my previous life, the chosen candidate was the crown prince of the Prince of Duan, a distant nephew of the current emperor. I went to take a peek and discovered that while the crown prince of the Prince of Duan was always gentle and courteous in the emperor's presence, whenever his back was turned, his eyes would brim with fierce ambition. No wonder such a man was capable of committing such treacherous acts in my past life. But I couldn't say much about it. My mother is my own flesh and blood and is willing to believe I have memories of a past life. But others would only think I'm a crazy child. Yet the emperor treats me so well. I simply cannot bear to see him deceived by that wicked boy. So on the day of the adoption ceremony, I kept it a secret from my mother and, accompanied by the secret guard from the temple that day, sneaked into the banquet hall. Secret guard No. 17 had been specially assigned by the emperor to protect us mother and daughter, with him by my side. I had no fear that anyone in the palace unaware of our identities might accidentally offend us. I never expected that before I could gather evidence of the Crown Prince of Duan's duplicity, I would first spot 3 familiar faces. After 2 months apart, father had grown noticeably thinner, his brow perpetually furrowed. My aunt in Mengxian, on the other hand, looked more radiant than ever. My aunt was born a concubine's daughter. She had never known any luxuries growing up, and her marriage had been troubled in every way. She fell short of my mother. Now that she has finally fulfilled her wish to replace my mother as the Marquis's wife, she no longer pretends to be aloof. She'd love to pile every piece of jewelry in the Marquis's mansion onto her own overburdened head. Meng Xian has become the legitimate young master of the Marquis's household, dressed head to toe in silk and brocade, exuding the sleazy air of a nouveau riche. Seeing them so smug and triumphant, I couldn't stand it. My eyes darted about, and I ordered Enshurchi to handle a matter for me. Enshurchi saw that the area was surrounded by imperial guards and the banquet guests were all from distinguished families, so he set off with peace of mind. I curled the corner of my mouth, intending to leave for the moment, But suddenly someone grabbed my wrist tightly. Father's eyes were wide with shock, and his voice trembled slightly as he looked at me. Ching Ching, what are you doing here? Where's your mother? His brow relaxed slightly, and his tone carried a hint of relief. You actually followed me. This is ridiculous. Without the Marquis Mansion's credentials, you shouldn't be appearing at an event like this. Hurry up and fetch your mother. I'll take you both back to the estate first. Father was talking utter nonsense. I rolled my eyes dramatically. Don't even mention my mother. You're not worthy. She's already found a man far better than you. Father's breath caught, as if he were struggling to discern the truth. Aunt Shinmujiao noticed the commotion and hurried over, placing her hand on father's arm in a display of intimacy. Oh, isn't this Ching Ching? Did your mother send you over? Your Excellency, it seems someone realizes they've gone too far, has regrets, and wants to make amends. Your Excellency, why not bring your sisters back? I'm not as petty as my sister. I am not the type to hold a grudge. They could always come back as concubines. Shinmujiao's sly remarks drew the attention of everyone present. Everyone knew there was a major drama unfolding at the waning Marquis Mansion, and they knew full well that it was Shinmujiao who had stolen her own sister's husband and driven her elder sister away. Yet, of all people, Shinmujiao had recently begun currying favor with the princess consort of the Duan prince. The crown prince of Duan was about to be adopted by the emperor. So even though everyone knew Shinmujiao was in the wrong, few were willing to step forward and take my mother's and my side. Even in my previous life, Shinmujiao had killed my mother, my younger brother, and me one after another. Yet she faced no punishment all because of this connection. Seeing the contempt on my face, Meng Xian slapped me across the cheek. My parents are speaking to you, yet you ignore them. Do you still think you're the young miss of the Marquis Mansion? Since Meng Xian dared to hit me, I wasn't going to let him get away with it. I kicked him squarely in the groin. Meng Xian hadn't expected me to fight back. He let out a wail, clutched his lower body, and curled up on the ground, howling in pain. As soon as Shinmujiao saw her son's manhood injured, she threw all decorum to the wind. She lunged forward, grabbed my ear, and pointed at my face as she scolded me. You wild bitch. Is that even a place you're allowed to kick? I didn't just kick him, I am going to bite you too. I clamped down on Shinmujiao's finger with all my might, refusing to let go. Shinmujiao let out a shriek. Oh my. It's bleeding. It's going to break. In her pain, Shinmujiao lashed out with her other hand, slapping me across the face. I didn't let go, biting through her index finger, and was about to deliver another kick to her lower abdomen. Father's face suddenly turned pale. He shielded Shinmujiao and raised my small body, as if to throw me to the ground. You wretched creature. Have you lost your mind? Just then, a powerful voice rang out. Put her down. Mother hadn't seen me at Hefu Palace, and hearing the commotion at the banquet, she didn't bother keeping a low profile and rushed over immediately. She happened to witness the moment my father was about to lay his hands on me. Like a mother eagle protecting her young, she flew to my side, snatched me from my father's grasp, and held me close to her chest. Ching Ching. My dear daughter, where are you hurt? Why are you covered in blood? Father's eyes lit up the moment he saw Mother. After 2 months apart, Mother's complexion had improved greatly. She wasn't heavily made up like Shinmujiao, yet her natural beauty was even more striking. Mother didn't notice Father's expression. She walked right up to him and slapped him across the face. Even a tiger doesn't eat its own cubs. Gu Yanji, are you even human? Ching Ching is your own flesh and blood. Father was stunned by the blow, his eyes filled with disbelief. You used to be as gentle as water. How have you turned into such a shrew now? Mother sneered. As long as it protects my child, I'd gladly be a shrew or even a venomous woman. Father covered his face, his voice filled with grievance. Take another good look. Ching Ching isn't hurt at all. She's covered in Jiao Jiao's blood, and she even injured Meng Xian's manhood. Such uncontrollable mischief, it's all because you, her mother, have spoiled her rotten. Mother examined me closely, seeing that, aside from a slight flush on my cheek, I was indeed unharmed. She finally relaxed. Having left the palace without the emperor's permission, she didn't want to draw any more attention now. She scooped me up, intending to take me back. Qin Mujiao, clutching her bleeding hand, pulled Meng Xian in front of us to block our path. Stop right there. Since you two have already left the Marquis's estate, why are you still clinging to the Marquis like a shadow? You're clearly jealous that we've won the Marquis's favor. How could you be so vicious as to hurt us? Your Excellency, I beg you to intervene. Please do not let them go. Xianer's life was nearly ruined. Do not forget that Xianer is your son too. Qin Mujiao was aggressive, but father, on the contrary, looked somewhat pleased, as if he had uncovered some secret. The look in his eyes as he gazed at mother carried a hint of certainty, as if to say, I knew it. Yao Yao, be a good girl. Stop trying to prove yourself. If you still care about me, why didn't you return to the Marquis's mansion sooner? Actually, regarding Jiao Jiao, I have my reasons. You'll understand in time. What happened today is a family matter. Rest assured. I won't hold it against you, but you mustn't throw tantrums. It's against the rules. I'll have someone escort you back to the mansion first. We can discuss whatever needs to be discussed once we're home. As long as you can accept Jiao Jiao and her son, I'm still willing to take you as a secondary wife. No one expected father to say such a thing. Qin Mujiao was so enraged she nearly spat blood on the spot. As she watched father extend his hand, mother immediately stepped back to avoid it. Your Excellency, please conduct yourself with dignity. Who says we're family? I remarried long ago, and the man I married is 1,000,000 times better than you. Her mother's words were as cold as ice, and her father's face turned as grim as if he'd fallen into an ice cellar. He gave a cold laugh and resumed his haughty demeanor. Qin Muyao, how long do you intend to sulk? You cannot bear a son. Granting you the status of a secondary wife is already a great act of magnanimity on my part. What more could you possibly want? Mother turned a deaf ear, treating father as nothing but a joke. Just then, a piercing voice rang out. The emperor has arrived. The emperor stepped into the center of the crowd, scanning the scene before his gaze settled on father, who was staring intently at mother. Who is it that wishes to marry my Yao Fei as a cowwife? Yao Fei. The crowd began to murmur. So this is the emperor's newly appointed Yao Fei. I hear he favors her greatly, granting her his favor day after day, yet never revealing her to outsiders. Who would have thought it was the former wife of the Empress Dowager of Weining? The emperor cast a faint, sweeping glance around the room, and no one dared to say another word. As if to assert his sovereignty, he pulled his mother into his embrace and affectionately ruffled my hair. As everyone knows, Consort Yao had long since divorced the Marquis of Weining. The emperor and Consort Yao fell in love at first sight, and bringing her and her daughter into the palace was entirely in accordance with proper etiquette. The reason we did not make it public was simply to avoid idle gossip. Little did I expect that this would embolden others to covet my woman. No one had anticipated that mother would suddenly transform from a discarded wife of the Marquis's household into the emperor's favored concubine. The crowd instantly regretted not having offered her assistance earlier. Any discerning person could see that it was Qin Mujiao who was bullying the divorced wife and her daughter. Father froze, his face filled with disbelief. How could this be? The emperor, however, paid no heed to his shock and immediately ordered his men to force father and Qin Mujiao and her son to their knees. Marquis of Weining, you have failed to maintain strict discipline in your household and have indulged a scheming woman. How can you be worthy of serving as a model for the officials? You are hereby stripped of all your official duties and fined 1 year's salary. To serve as a warning to others. Gu Shen, your intentions are malicious. You stir up trouble and run amok in the palace, humiliating the imperial consorts. 30 strokes of the cane. Considering your son Mengxian is still a child, you as his mother, shall bear the punishment for his crimes, a total of 50 strokes. Seeing the emperor's wrath, not even the Prince of Duan's family dared to intercede. Father's expression darkened, and he quickly stepped in front of Shinmu Jiao. Your Majesty, you have always shown compassion toward children. Jiao Jiao is carrying my child. For the sake of the child, please allow me to take these 50 strokes in her place. The emperor immediately summoned a court physician to examine her, and the result confirmed what father had said. Shinmu Jiao was indeed pregnant. I furrowed my brow slightly. How could this be possible? Mother had confirmed long ago that father was barren. Aside from mother, no one could conceive his child. It seemed father had become a father without even knowing it. Since the emperor was childless, he had a special fondness for children. And Shinmu Jiao thus escaped punishment. Father, however, endured the 50 lashes in public, leaving his back and buttocks a bloody mess. The emperor, seemingly worried that mother would be distressed, reached out and covered her eyes. Yao Yao, you've been wronged. From now on, I will always stand by you. Father had been beaten until he coughed up blood. He glared intently at the figures of mother and the emperor standing side by side. His face twisted with resentment. Your Majesty, this subject has a matter to report. Shinmu Yash is guilty of deceiving the sovereign. Your Majesty, do not let her deceive you. The emperor stared at her father, his face expressionless. What are you talking about? A vengeful smile played on her father's lips as he spoke words that cut to the bone. Why would the emperor suddenly bring a divorced woman into the palace? It must be because he heard she is fertile, isn't it? Ha! There's no such thing as fertility, it's all a lie. She deceived me back then, claiming I was barren and that only she could bear me a son. Yet 7 years have passed, and I have only this one daughter. Ching Ching. Had Jiao Jiao not exposed all this, I would still be kept in the dark by her. Jiao Jiao can conceive my child, that is the best proof of all. She even dared to lie just to enter the palace and serve his majesty. The emperor should immediately strip her of her title as concubine. Father ranted on at length, while mother seemed so enraged she could barely contain herself, shaking her head weakly. Your Majesty, I did noti. Before she could finish, mother fainted. I was so frightened my blood ran cold, and I rushed forward to grab her hand. Mother lay motionless, yet I felt as if my palm had been gently tickled. My tears stopped instantly. Could mother be faking it? Looking at her belly, a premonition welled up in my heart. I paused for a moment, then began to cry even louder. Your imperial uncle, mother must be ill. Please save mother. The emperor immediately summoned the imperial physician to take mother's pulse. And the result was exactly as I had suspected. Your Majesty, Consort Yao is with child. At these words, the entire hall was stunned. Empress Yao is pregnant. How is that possible? Even the emperor himself was startled and hurriedly asked, how far along is Empress Yao? Many others were also listening intently. The imperial physician, realizing the gravity of the situation, spoke directly. Your Majesty, Empress Yao is 1 month pregnant. And this matches the records from the Office of Royal Affairs. Mother had been in the palace for 2 months and was 1 month pregnant. The situation was now crystal clear. This was the emperor's child. I finally understood what mother meant by there is a plan. She was a divorced woman who had been favored outside the palace. If she had become pregnant too soon, others would surely have questioned the child's origins. It was mother who had been secretly controlling the timing of the pregnancy all along. The emperor was overjoyed. It seemed there was no longer any rush for today's adoption ceremony. After mother slowly regained consciousness and the imperial physician confirmed she was unharmed, that she had merely fainted from extreme emotional agitation, the emperor immediately elevated her rank. She went from Consort Yao to Imperial Consort Yao in an instant. As for father, he had now been reduced to a complete laughingstock. His earlier accusations now sounded more like the ravings of a madman. Everyone knew the emperor had no heir. With so many concubines in the harem, none had been able to bear a single son or daughter. Yet imperial consort Yao had conceived as soon as she sent that proof of her fertile constitution. Father lay stiff and limp on the ground, unable to believe his ears. Unfortunately, however, his humiliation today was far from over. Secret Agent 17 had gone outside the palace to investigate some matters as I had instructed, and he had just returned with someone in tow. The moment she saw the man, Qin Mujiao's expression changed. Your Majesty. At Miss Qingqing's command, I went to investigate a few matters and have now uncovered some leads. The emperor nodded, signaling in Shi to elaborate. The man I have brought with me is none other than Mr. Meng, the former husband of the current Lady of Weining. According to Mr. Meng, while Qin Mujiao was at the Meng residence, she frequently engaged in secret liaisons with men of all walks of life. The son she bore, Meng Xian, is not Mr. Meng's biological son. In fact, even Qin Mujiao herself does not know who the child's biological father is, which is why she was divorced by the Meng family. Mr. Meng nodded frantically from the side. Actually, I had the same question in my previous life. Typically, when a man divorces his wife, if there is a son involved, the husband's family would never let him go so easily. So Meng Xian wasn't actually of the Meng family's bloodline after all. Another scandal had erupted at the Marquis of Weining's residence, and the entire court was feasting on the gossip with great relish. So a shameless slut and a bastard whose father is unknown could actually be treated like a precious treasure by the Marquis of Weining. What a laugh! A mocking smile involuntarily spread across the emperor's face. Since the Marquis of Weining has so much free time to meddle in my affairs, he'd do well to return home and investigate whether the child his wife is carrying is actually his own. Gu Yanji, gritting his teeth against the pain from his injuries, slunk out of the palace in disgrace. Upon returning to his estate and conducting an inquiry, he was shocked to discover something. It turned out that while staying at the Marquis's residence, Qin Mujiao had not only seduced him but had also made advances toward the stable hands and servants. As for the child in her womb, it was impossible to confirm whose it was. Only after the birth could a blood test determine the paternity. However, judging by the timing, it was highly unlikely to be his. Gu Yanji was devastated. He had Qin Mujiao tied to a pillar and subjected her to brutal torture, desperate to extract a definitive answer from her. But Qin Mujiao remained stubborn and obstinate. Her words nothing but evasions. What does it matter whose child it is? At least my affection for the Marquis is entirely genuine. Isn't Xianer also not the Marquis's biological son? Yet the Marquis treats him as his own, even more dearly than a biological child. The Marquis has no heir to begin with. It's difficult for him to have children of his own. Why must you insist on knowing the exact truth? Isn't it better to remain blissfully ignorant? Gu Yanji felt a surge of rage rise to his head, and he reached out to grab Qin Mujiao by the throat. What do you mean by that? Could it be that you've been misleading me all along? Yao Yao didn't lie to me. Infertility hasn't been cured at all. Did I wrongly accuse Yao Yao? Qin Mujiao, her throat clamped tight, coughed violently and couldn't speak a word. Seeing his mother being choked, Meng Xian darted toward Gu Yanji like a firecracker, punching and kicking him. You childless old bastard. Let go of my mother. Gu Yanji was already injured, and the blow from behind sent a searing pain through his body. His vision went black, and he fainted. Meanwhile, in the palace, the emperor suddenly jolted awake from a nightmare, drenched in cold sweat. The emperor had had a dream. In the dream, he had not brought Consort Yao into the palace, but had instead directly adopted the crown prince of the Prince of Duan as his own heir. The crown prince of the Prince of Duan appeared innocent and kind-hearted, but in reality, he was extremely cunning. He had struck while the emperor was vulnerable, seeking to take his life. Even the concubines and palace attendants in every courtyard had been brutally slaughtered, leaving rivers of blood in their wake. The empire he had painstakingly built had been handed over to his enemies. All the bloodshed and suffering left him unable to rest in peace. The emperor struggled to regain his composure. And only then did he remember that his consort Yao was already carrying his child. Everything in this life would be different now. He donned his imperial robe, picked up a brush, and wrote a few words before giving orders to the eunuch at his side. Double the allowance for Hafu Palace and treat it with the same protocol as the Empress's residence. Take this letter to the Empress Dowager as well. Inform her in advance that I will be bringing 2 important guests to her today. The Empress Dowager had devoted herself to Buddhist worship for years, residing within Hubwa Temple, and never received any of the imperial concubines, with the emperor having no heir. Her sole focus was praying for her son's well-being. Upon hearing that her son intended to bring 2 people to see her, the Empress Dowager felt a touch of disdain. What sort of coquettes are these? I wonder. Have they bewitched the emperor's mind? Upon opening the emperor's personal letter, the Empress Dowager's prayer beads fell to the ground, and her cloudy eyes instantly cleared. To think such a thing could happen. Escorted by the imperial guards, my mother and I accompanied the emperor to Hubwa Temple. Hubwa Temple is a royal monastery, closed to the general public. It is said that the current Empress Dowager resides there. I had originally worried that the Empress Dowager might look down on my mother for being divorced and burdened with a child. But to my surprise, the moment we met, she broke into a warm smile. Is this consort Yao? Very good, she's a fine young woman. With you attending to the emperor, I have every confidence in her. And this must be Qingqing. Come, sit beside me so I may have a good look at you. I never expected the Empress Dowager of a nation to be so approachable. I instantly relaxed and approached her to curtsy obediently. Qingqing pays her respects to Her Majesty the Empress Dowager. May Her Majesty be as enduring as the moon, as rising as the sun, as long-lived as the southern mountains unshaken and unshortened as lush as the pine and cypress. With all her wishes fulfilled, free from worry, and all her desires granted. The Empress Dowager's eyes lit up, and she exclaimed excellent. 3 times in a row. What a good child. Truly a good child. My visit to Hubwa Temple today is a matter of fate. Please ask Master Hongbei to read Qingqing's fortune. Master Hongbei was the abbot of Hubwa Temple, highly skilled in physiognomy, and his predictions always came true. The master first examined my face, then scrutinized my palm lines, remaining silent for a long time. The emperor, the Empress Dowager, and even my mother began to grow anxious. Master, what is the result? Could there be something amiss? Master Hongbei looked at me with pity in his eyes. A fragile blade of grass in the frost. A fragrant blossom withers and jade sinks. The orchid pavilion is no more, and the Zai's palace lies in ruins. As soon as these words were spoken, the expressions of everyone present changed. These were certainly not auspicious words. I, however, remained composed, to be given a second chance at life, to choose a different path for my mother even if I were still destined to die young. What did it matter? Master Hongbei suddenly smiled again. However, heaven takes pity on innocent children. The wheel of fortune has turned in this life. Young layman, you are destined to have countless younger brothers and sisters. You are sure to live a long life, free from worry year after year. Master Hongbei explained that everyone's destiny in this world is different. Some are destined to have no children, while others are destined to have younger brothers and sisters. I am the latter. The emperor and the Empress Dowager wept with joy. Our dynasty has endured for over 400 years. Yao Yao is a rare blessing of fertility. And Qingqing has such a fortunate destiny as well, truly a blessing for our dynasty. The Empress Dowager looked at me with kindness and suggested to the emperor, since Qingqing is entering the palace with her mother, she cannot go without a title. Why not bestow upon her the title of princess? In our dynasty, princesses are all descendants of the imperial family. A princess of a non-imperial lineage is unheard of. However, this also demonstrates the imperial family's high regard for us. Mother and daughter, I donned the princess's magnificent robes, mounted the little red horse bestowed by the emperor, and strolled through the capital. escorted by the palace's elite guards. By imperial decree, everyone, whether princes, nobles, or civil and military officials, was required to bow to me according to their rank, with the exception of senior members of the imperial family. Overnight, I became the capital's darling. It was truly a glorious moment. I was on top of the world. I was busy strutting my stuff when I suddenly spotted a familiar face darting past me. It was Meng Xian. Meng Xian had ambushed the Marquis at the Marquis's mansion. Fearing retaliation, Shen Mujiao hurriedly sent him fleeing to seek help from the crown prince of the Duan kingdom. With the Duan family's backing, even the Marquis couldn't dispose of them at will. Meng Xian looked a mess, but he still couldn't resist acting like a spoiled young master. Along the way, he grabbed snacks from street vendors and eat them on the spot, and snatch anything novel he saw from anyone's hands. He left with just one parting remark: "Go beg for money at the Marquis of Waning's mansion." Watching him made me furious. Last time he hit me, the emperor took pity on a child and didn't punish him. I'm a child too. If a child hits another child, surely no one will interfere, right? So, under the protection of the imperial palace guards, I beat the Marquis's little monster right there in the street. Winning cheers from the onlookers. Someone should have taken him down a peg a long time ago. What's so great about the Marquis's son? The one beating him is the emperor's newly appointed princess. Meng Xian was left with a black eye and a swollen face. But when he looked up, he still glared at me with resentment. "You little slut. Don't get too cocky." My mother is close friends with the princess consort of the Prince of Duan. The Crown Prince of Duan is about to become the emperor's stepson who'll avenge me. I covered my mouth and laughed. The Crown Prince of Duan. Even the Prince of Duan himself can't save you now. Don't you know that His Imperial Majesty ordered the Duan Prince's mansion to be raided today? The entire Duan family has been banished from the capital. Speaking of which, I was a bit puzzled myself. I didn't know what had gotten into the emperor, but his attitude toward the Duan family had suddenly changed drastically. He gathered plenty of evidence of their misdeeds and sent the whole family to the frontier to do hard labor. In this life, Shen Mujiao and Meng Xian no longer had any backing. Meng Xian was later taken away by servants from the Marquis's estate. I suppose my father would once again comfort him without distinguishing right from wrong. But I didn't care. In this life, my mother and I no longer had any connection to the Marquis's estate. Time flew by in the blink of an eye, and I celebrated a grand birthday in the imperial palace. My uncle, the emperor, doted on me. Not only did he invite Persian performers to dance for me, but he also arranged for 2 elephants for me to ride and play on. I celebrated my birthday in high spirits. The next day, Mother was due to give birth. The emperor knew he was a man without an heir, and that carrying his child would be exceptionally arduous. So he had made preparations well in advance, while my mother was carrying the child. In addition to the finest tonics, the emperor would personally escort her on walks through the imperial garden every day after court. According to the imperial physician, pregnant women should not eat or lie down too much. Moderate walking is actually more beneficial for childbirth. So when the day of delivery arrived, my mother did not suffer greatly and soon gave birth to a healthy baby boy. The emperor was so overjoyed he wept, clutching the infant tightly. This was the bloodline of the imperial family. The emperor planned to grant a general amnesty and celebrate with the entire nation. At the same time, news arrived from the secret guards stationed at the Marquis's residence. The Marquis of Waning's wife has also given birth to a baby girl. However, the infant failed the blood test to confirm paternity. She is not the Marquis of Waning's child at all and has already been sent out of the capital by the Marquis to be given to someone else. At that moment, in the Marquis of Waning's residence, Gu Yanji knelt before the old matriarch's bed, unable to lift his head. The old matriarch had only this one son, Gu Yanji, and had originally hoped he would carry on the family line. Little did she know that in the end, it would all come to nothing. Hearing the jubilant sounds of celebration from the streets outside, the old matriarch asked, her voice filled with resentment, "Has Lady Shen truly given birth to a son. The lady Xinshi referred to as Shin Muyao, not Shin Mujiao. Upon seeing Gu Yanji nod, the old matriarch felt as though she could not draw a breath and immediately coughed up a mouthful of blood. What a tragedy. It's all because of your fickleness you drove Lady Shin and her daughter away, only to bring a fallen woman into the household, turning the Marquis' estate into the capital's biggest laughingstock, back when you were unable to produce an heir. Countless renowned physicians and masters confirmed time and again that Lady Shin was blessed with the ability to conceive. She was deeply devoted to you, never boasting of her own merits, and worked tirelessly to bear you a daughter. Yet you, of all people, listened to others and drove them both away. Qingqing is such a bright and clever girl. With her in the Marquis' household, she might well have upheld the family's honor in the future. How could you have been so foolish? Though she spoke these words back when that mother and daughter were in the Marquis' household, she, the old lady, had seemed to harbor a certain disdain for them. She had always thought that if only she could have a grandson, everything would be perfect. Now, forget about a grandson, she's even lost her granddaughter. With her last breath, the dowager lady made her final request to Gu Yanji. Madam Shin is a good woman. You've wronged her. You must bring her back. And Qingqing, my dear granddaughter. Before she could finish, the dowager lady of the Marquis' mansion passed away. Filled with regret, Gu Yanji was overcome with grief. After settling the funeral arrangements, he dressed in white and set out for the palace to bring his wife back. He had long since regretted his actions. His family had once been so happy and harmonious. If he could bring her and their daughter back, perhaps he could regain that warmth. Though the imperial palace offered wealth and luxury, he was confident he understood Yao Yao's character. She was not the sort to share a husband with another woman. With 3,000 beauties in the emperor's harem, he was certain she could not remain faithful to just one man. But he was stopped at the palace gates. How dare you? Do you dare to tarnish the empress's reputation? It turned out that because of her merit in bearing a prince, his mother had been directly proclaimed empress by the emperor. The emperor had even dismissed the rest of the harem, deciding to favor only his mother from then on. He didn't even have the right to catch a glimpse of mother. Standing outside the palace gates, he looked like a statue, a laughingstock to passers-by. No one thought the Marquis of Waning could possibly cause any more trouble, but unexpectedly, he decided to target me. A few months later, while I was out horseback hunting, he actually tied me up, trying to force Mother to change her mind. I was locked in a stuffy room, surrounded by all the little trinkets I used to love most. There were all kinds of clay figurines, exquisitely crafted kites, and every kind of pastry and snack I used to adore. Father held a string of large, round candied hawthorn berries in his hand and held it out to me. Qingqing, are you hungry? This is the candied hawthorn from your favorite shop. I bought it for you. Go ahead and taste it, see if the flavor has changed. I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. I'm sick of it. Uncle Emperor heard I loved it, so he invited the master from that shop to the palace long ago to make it just for me. Now, what you're selling isn't the real thing anymore. Besides, I'm losing my baby teeth. Uncle the Emperor said I should cut back on sweets, they're bad for my teeth. Father's face darkened, but he held himself back and didn't lose his temper with me. He tried to stir up my nostalgia by reminding me of happier times. Qingqing, no matter how wonderful the palace is, it's not your home. No matter how kind the Emperor is to you, he has an ulterior motive. It's not genuine. He's only after your mother's womb. Do you remember when you were little, living with Daddy? Daddy cherished you and your mother. We were a family. Your mother loves you most of all, no matter what children she bears for others. You're still her firstborn daughter. She can't let you go. Go and have a heart-to-heart with your mother. Don't be tempted by the splendor of the palace. Come back to me. The three of us will change our names and go into hiding in the mountains, living happily ever after. Wouldn't that be wonderful? My father's tone was incredibly persuasive. But it had no effect on me. I was far more stubborn than he imagined. No. Hearing me say that, my father was on the verge of exploding. Why not? I raised my eyes and looked at him with utter calm. Because I hate you. He seemed taken aback by my use of the word hate. His body swayed as he stumbled back several steps. His eyes filled with disappointment. Trembling. He pulled a dagger from his robe and jutted it straight at my heart. Take back what you just said. I'm your own father. What right do you have to hate me? How dare you hate me? Did someone teach you this? Did someone say something to you? Was it the Emperor? He's an outsider. If you're going to hate anyone, hate him. He's the one who stole your mother away from your father. Suddenly, I felt like laughing, but after the laughter, I wanted to cry. You want to kill me? Go ahead and kill me. Do you think I'll be afraid? Do you think I'll beg for mercy? Tears streamed down my face, yet I laughed even louder. I'm nothing but a burden to my mother. If you kill me, you'll be clearing the way for her. From now on, she'll have only the Emperor's children, and no one will ever whisper about her origins again. If my death means my mother can live a better life, I'm willing to die. Father furrowed his brow, unable to believe such words could come from the mouth of a child. Ching Ching, do you really hate me that much? I repeated it over and over again, shouting at the top of my lungs. Yes, I hate you. I hate you. I hate you. I just hate you. I hate that you swore eternal love to mother, yet betrayed her loyalty and committed adultery with another. I hate you for neglecting me, your own flesh and blood, yet treating those who bullied me as your son and showering them with affection. I hate you for ignoring mother's suffering, causing her to die along with my brother, 2 lives lost in one. I hate you for turning a blind eye to my stepmother's abuse, forcing me to die unmarried before I turned 16, having endured endless torment. I hate you for lifting me up to heaven, only to cast me down into hell. My hatred was so intense that father stood frozen in place, overcome with shock. He wanted to deny it, but his head felt as if it were about to explode. Vague images seemed to grow increasingly clear. In the end, father did not harm me, nor did he bind me again. Instead, he set me free. I sat in the carriage on the way back to the palace, silently shedding tears. I recalled the past, when father had lifted me high above his head and said to me with pride, "So what if Ching Ching is a girl? A girl can still study and practice martial arts. When you grow up, go take the imperial exams and become the top female scholar. Or become a female general, you'll still live a brilliant life. Father will be waiting for Ching Ching to bring him glory." Back then, his love for me was genuine, but the harm he later inflicted upon me was also real. My tragic death in the blizzard in my past life was, in a way, my repayment for the life he had given me. From that moment on, our father-daughter bond was severed completely. Gu Yinji returned alone to the Marquis's mansion, kneeling before the spirit tablet of the old matriarch, his mind still replaying the words his daughter had spoken that day. The more he thought about it, the more absorbed he became, until he fell asleep and had a dream that felt incredibly real. In the dream, after discovering him in bed with Shinmu Jiao, Yao Yao chose to forgive him. Deep down, he still cared for Yao Yao. But Shinmu Jiao had told him that there was no such thing as a fertile constitution in this world. Of the 2 sisters, Yao Yao could only bear daughters, while Shinmu Jiao could only bear sons. To ensure the Ho family line continued, he had no choice but to secretly share a bed with Shinmu Jiao. Shinmu Jiao seemed exceptionally gifted in that regard, always managing to sweep him off his feet. He couldn't bear to have his Yao Yao engage in such sordid acts. Shinmu Jiao, on the other hand, didn't matter to him. He had originally planned that once Shinmu Jiao gave birth to a son, he would have the child raised by Yao Yao, for Yao Yao alone was to be his lawful wife. But Yao Yao and her daughter seemed like completely different people. They constantly targeted Shinmu Jiao and her son. Even though I had forgiven Yao Yao for lying, she continued to pick on Shinmu Jiao at every turn. and even raised her daughter to be exceptionally unruly. At this rate, when would the Marquis's household ever have a male heir? So he had no choice but to put on a stern face and deliberately treat them coldly, hoping to make them behave and stop causing trouble. Later, Shin Mujiao finally became pregnant, and to his even greater joy, Yao Yao also became pregnant. But why was Yao Yao's fate so fragile? Out of the blue, she miscarried, bled profusely, and passed away. He was heartbroken and despairing, and from then on, he never recovered, spending his days bedridden. As for Qingqing, he had no choice but to entrust her care to Shin Mujiao, her aunt. Unexpectedly, Qingqing also died of illness. His life lost all its luster in an instant. Later, he treated Meng Xian as his own son, entrusting him with upholding the prestige of the Marquis's household. It was only then that Shin Mujiao and her daughter revealed their true colors. They locked him in a room, denying him food and water, and at the same time, they revealed a terrifying secret to him. That slut Shin Mujiao only managed to lose both her life and her child because of that bowl of safflower I gave her. At first, she struggled desperately and refused to drink it. But I told her, "This is the Marquis's order. The Marquis doesn't like you, so he doesn't want your child either." That's when she gave up the fight, and I got what I wanted. And that little brat of yours, so young, yet so cunning, I hated the look in her eyes the most. So I had her eyes gouged out right away. I starved her for 3 days and 3 nights. Then gave her a bowl of hot noodle soup. That tiny body, it jumped up instantly from the scalding heat. Thank goodness Xianer is so strong. He forced her mouth open and kept feeding her until that little beast finally choked to death in agony. Now the Marquis's mansion is as good as ours. You're just a waste of rice while your Alavago die with your wife and daughter. Gu Yanji jolted awake from his dream, unable to calm down for a long time. It turned out he had already regretted it in his previous life. Gu Yanji arrived at the Marquis's dungeon, where a mother and son were being held captive. On the day Meng Xian ambushed Gu Yanji, he was brought back by the Marquis's servants and had been locked away underground ever since, never to see the light of day again. As for Shin Mujiao, after giving birth to her second bastard child, she too had been locked up by Gu Yanji, to the outside world. It was simply said that the mother and son were ill and unable to receive visitors. Upon seeing Gu Yanji enter, the pair continued to speak sweetly. "Your Excellency, please let us out. This dungeon is no place for human beings. Xianer is listed in the Marquis's family registry. And I am your lawful wife. I can still bear children this time. I will surely give birth to a child of your bloodline." Gu Yanji let out a cold laugh, stepped forward with a dagger, and gouged out Meng Xian's eyes while he was still alive. Meng Xian immediately let out a heart-wrenching scream. Shin Mujiao was petrified with fear. She trembled as she tried to back away, but Gu Yanji grabbed her by the throat. "It's all your fault. You're the one who ruined my Yao Yao and Qingqing. I'm going to avenge them." Gu Yanji began slicing at Shin Mujiao's flesh with the dagger, subjecting her to hundreds of agonizing cuts until not a single patch of unharmed skin remained on her body. Finally, he gathered firewood and piled it in the dungeon, then poured several buckets of tung oil over it. "You scalded my Qingqing to death, so I'll burn you alive to make up for her suffering." A fire broke out at the Marquis of Waning's mansion. People rushed to put it out, but in the end, they found only 2 charred skeletons, one large, one small amid the ashes. The 2 skeletons were contorted, appearing to have suffered greatly. Gu Yanji, meanwhile, went alone to the stargazing tower and had someone deliver a message to us. He said that if we still refused to forgive him, he would jump from the tower. Neither Mother nor I went to see him, because Mother was already pregnant again. According to the imperial physician, she was carrying twins this time, with Mother about to give birth. I was too busy tending to her to have any time to worry about anyone else's life or death. Mother safely gave birth to a boy and a girl. The birth of a boy and a girl brought such good fortune that the Emperor and the Empress Dowager were nearly beside themselves with joy. The entire capital, was ablaze with celebratory fireworks. No one paid the slightest attention to the extra corpse lying beneath the stargazing tower. Father was dead, and the Marquis' estate had no heir. I heard that before he died. He specifically crossed Meng Xian's name out of the family registry and replaced it with mine. So the vast fortune of the Marquis' estate was to be inherited by me. I didn't want to have anything to do with the Marquis' estate anymore. Just as I was about to refuse, the Emperor came to persuade me. Little Qingqing, are you being silly? The Marquis' estate was meant to be yours all along. It's a huge sum of silver, wouldn't it be nice to have it as pocket money? The Emperor had a point, so I accepted it all, since it was the Emperor's wish. None of the Gu family elders dared to object. They all welcomed me with open arms to inherit the estate. And there was another strange thing. I kept feeling that the Emperor was looking at me strangely, as if he felt a bit guilty, yet also a bit relieved. Later, to my surprise, he actually proposed formally adopting me as his adopted daughter and adding me to the imperial genealogy. From now on, all my younger brothers and sisters would be ranked below me. I was actually promoted from a county princess to a grand princess. I officially became the Emperor's daughter. With a face full of tenderness, the Emperor asked me to call him father. I did. Father was so delighted he lifted me up, saying he would grant me anything I desired. Sure enough, my treatment was far superior to that of any of my younger brothers and sisters. While the other princes and princesses received only their prescribed monthly allowances, I had an entire Marquis' estate to spend as pocket money, plus all sorts of special gifts from Father Emperor. Even my younger brother, the Crown Prince, had to watch his step around me. I became their most powerful eldest sister, spending my days ruling with an iron fist and flexing my authority, until Father Emperor was about to pass away. He didn't summon any of his biological children to be by his side. Instead, he called only me, Qingqing. My dear daughter, Father is sorry for what I've done to you. All these years, I've kept a secret in my heart, too afraid to tell you. I was taken aback. What could Father possibly be hiding from me? Besides, with all the affairs of state he had to manage, surely there was no need for him to report such matters to me. A single tear slowly trickled down his face. Actually, back then, on the day your mother gave birth to twins, your biological father stood atop the star-plucking tower, intending to threaten you both into turning back. Even though you both didn't care, I was still afraid. I was afraid he would snatch you away from me. That day, he hesitated and dithered, refusing to actually jump, so I secretly sent men to see him on his way. Father's words truly shocked me. It turned out Father hadn't committed suicide. Father had killed him. All these years, driven by guilt, Father had treated me like the apple of his eye. Trying to make up for it tenfold, Father asked if I hated him. I thought of all the love he had shown me, Mother, and my younger siblings over the years, and shook my head. Though he wasn't my biological father, he truly treated me as his own daughter. Even better than that, my grand princess's mansion was more luxurious than any of my younger siblings' residences. In his spare time after court, he spent most of it playing and having fun with me. I received more of Father's love than any of my younger siblings. For an emperor to go to such lengths, what more could I possibly ask for? Father was deeply moved, and a great weight seemed to lift from his shoulders. Qingqing, I am truly grateful to you. It was you who brought your mother to my side, and it is you who has always helped me care for all these younger brothers and sisters. Father wishes for you to live a life of everlasting joy. Father passed away. Before his death, he left a final decree, which was also incorporated into the ancestral edicts. All descendants of the imperial family, generation after generation, must honor and respect me. I am the most noble eldest princess of the imperial family, and no one may treat me with disrespect. Perhaps because of my own father, I found it difficult to fall in love with a man for the rest of my life, so I chose to remain unmarried. However, I was truly blessed. As a child, I relied on my mother. As I grew older, on my younger brothers and sisters. In my old age, on my nephews and nieces. And in my advanced years, on my grandnephews and grandnieces. Every day, my only worries were what to eat and how to amuse myself. I knew nothing of sorrow. In the year I turned 108, after enjoying my favorite snacks in the evening and finishing my favorite storybook, I lay down in the warm bed of the princess's mansion, drifted off into a sweet sleep, and never woke again. Later, when the common people heard my story, they spontaneously built a princess temple in my honor. People go there to pray for children and for younger siblings. Thanks to this merit, I will forever be remembered and worshipped. And I have ascended to the Pure Land. The story ends here. Thank you all for joining me. See you in the next one.